Welcome back to Alpha Recap. Today we walk through a pretty busy tape. Sector headlines, biotech catalysts, enterprise AI deals, and a looming IBM keynote that traders were already pricing in. As always, if you have questions, you can reach us at stockalpha.ai.
Hi everyone, lots to unpack. Markets closed after a day where specific headlines mattered more than a single macro story. So, what really stands out here is the event-driven nature of the tape.
Exactly. Let's kick off with Biotech because that was a real headline grabber. Cellenkos got FDA clearance to start an investigational new drug trial for their CK-0802 therapy, aimed at steroid-refractory graft versus host disease. That's a first step toward a multi-center Phase 1b/2a study focused on safety and early signs of efficacy.
Right, and analysts pointed out that IND clearances like this are near-term operational catalysts. Stuff like trial starts, site listings, and early safety readouts are the things that can move these names. I mean, when you step back and look at this, it's the classic biotech playbook. News-driven volatility.
And that played out elsewhere today. Stifel raised its price target on Syndax Pharmaceuticals, and the stock jumped nearly 10% intraday. That kind of analyst action still has punch for small-cap biotech names.
Yeah, that tracks. These are the kinds of moves driven less by broad sentiment and more by concentrated conviction shifts. For retail and spec funds that chase catalysts, that creates opportunity, but also rapid reversals.
Short reaction.
Big move.
And more clinical visibility. Setpoint Medical presenting at the Bank of America Healthcare Conference mattered too. Conference appearances often trigger intraday volume as attendees and algorithmic readers pass slides and Q&A.
Absolutely. For clinical stage companies, management commentary on enrollment or commercialization plans can move multiple quarters of expectations in a single presentation. Analysts note volume sensitivity in these names, so trade size and liquidity matter.
Okay, tech and AI next. Big theme.
Hang on, that was dramatic. Go on.
Sorry, dramatic is my middle name. Anyway, Medline announced a partnership built with a major cloud and AI vendor to launch an AI supply chain platform for healthcare. The headline ties enterprise AI demand in logistics, forecasting and procurement to the cloud providers.
Right, and the market saw that as an indicator that corporate customers are moving from experiments to actual procurement. That supports cloud providers and the ecosystem around them. Think infrastructure, chips, and software stacks.
And of course, IBM CEO Arvind Krishna was scheduled to open IBM Think tomorrow, May 5th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, with a keynote on AI and quantum computing. Analysts were calling that a potential roadmap moment for enterprise AI spending.
The keynote could shift short-term revenue and margin assumptions if IBM announces product timelines or partner deals. So even though markets were closed on the headline itself, traders were already positioning for tomorrow's corporate messaging.
On the hardware side, Nvidia traded modestly lower on the day despite heavy volume, and we saw heavy activity in the inverse semiconductor ETF and an inverse small cap ETF. That showed people were hedging or speculating around chip momentum.
And don't forget advisory activity. A boutique M&A firm hired a technology coverage lead focused on cybersecurity and infrastructure software. That's a signal that deal flow tied to AI migration is still expected to be meaningful.
Feels like everyone's getting their resumes ready for an M&A sprint.
Honestly, I was a bit surprised by the speed of that hire. It does suggest banks see real opportunity in cyber and infra as companies accelerate AI rollouts.
Short reaction.
Totally.
Now let's talk flows. Because volume patterning was a headline in itself. The inverse semiconductor ETF fell about 2.4% with heavy volume, and that inverse small cap ETF declined about 1.2% on elevated participation.
Those moves highlight execution and decay risk with leveraged and inverse vehicles. People use them tactically, but they can amplify volatility and create spillovers into options markets and short-term implied volatility.
Microcaps also saw outsized moves. One penny style name was up about 1.8% on extremely large volume, while another well-known microcap consumer name finished down about 3.6% on very heavy participation.
Volume mattered there. The data suggests retail speculative flows continue to drive big intraday swings in low-price stocks. Analysts recommend using volume as a confirming indicator, rather than assuming one-day moves are persistent trends.
And Nokia posted a near 3% gain on heavy volume, one of the stronger stories in industrials and communications for the session. We'll see whether that's sustained or just a bounce.
Quick point on crypto. Ascentum launched a token presale as it moved from testnet toward mainnet, pitching post-quantum security as differentiation. Presales are primary liquidity events for Layer 1 projects, and they shape early distribution and price discovery.
Right, but token economics and listing liquidity almost always dominate early price behavior. Security claims are interesting from a marketing perspective, but auditors, audit reports, and a clear listing timetable are what traders will watch next.
Moving on, there were a few smaller but interesting corporate items. A company launched a credentialing product after an immigration agency approval to issue healthcare worker certificates, which could affect staffing pipelines if adoption scales. And some industry recognition awards for security leaders.
Those are more qualitative signals, but they underline the broader trend we saw. Healthcare supply chains getting digitized, and adjacent areas like staffing and credentialing becoming part of the cost and capacity conversation.
Analyst moves also mattered. Goldman Sachs upgraded a China property-related broker, signaling early signs of stabilization in that sector. Desk-level upgrades can re-rate groups quickly, especially when they're tied to macro inflection points.
Which brings us to the patterns and what to watch. First, enterprise AI is moving from platform announcements to verticalized deals. The Medline partnership and IBM's Keynote both fit that narrative. Second, biotech remained event-driven. Third, retail and tactical flows continued to concentrate in microcaps and leveraged products, producing amplified intraday volatility.
Yep, and security and staffing solutions popped up as adjacent themes, with post-quantum claims and credentialing services getting attention. These are the kind of incremental trends that can matter for procurement and labor costs over time.
So what to watch tomorrow? IBM Think opening keynote by Arvind Krishna at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Any product timelines, partner announcements or roadmaps could be a short-term catalyst. Also look for follow-ups on the Medline partnership, rollout metrics or pilot details.
And keep an eye on Syndax and Cellenkos for additional analyst commentary, trial site postings, or enrollment updates. For crypto, Ascentum's presale follow-through, listing venues, and audit results will be key.
Finally, watch flows in leveraged and inverse ETFs and microcaps. Continued heavy volume will keep volatility elevated and could spill into options and implied vol markets. China property data could also validate or refute the recent upgrade thesis in that space.
Quick reactions. Right.
Before we sign off, a few clear takeaways. 1. Biotech is event-driven. Treat INDs, trial news, and analyst calls as potential volatility drivers. 2. Enterprise AI is accelerating into vertical deals. That supports cloud providers and the supporting chip and software ecosystem. 3. Volume is your compass in today's tape, especially for microcaps and leveraged products. And 4. Watch corporate messaging over the next 24 to 48 hours. Keynote speeches and conference presentations can move perceptions fast.
And a reminder, this briefing is informational only. It does not constitute investment advice or a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any security. Analysts note the data we discussed reflect market observations and should not be interpreted as personalized guidance.
All right, that's our recap. If you have questions about anything we covered today, head to stockalpha.ai, where you can ask us directly and we'll answer live. For more market analysis and insights, visit stockalpha.ai. Thanks for listening. Catch you tomorrow.